Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to Buddha Dhamma TV. I am Stella Lim from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. As is our cherished tradition, we commence our Buddha Dhamma TV program by invoking blessings upon all beings across the universe, wishing them good health, happiness, and a serene environment for their daily lives. Now, to begin with, here is Venerable Upalavana to recite the first verse.
චක්කවාරංකිත රත්ත සුපාදෝ ලක්ඛන මණ්ඩිත ආයත පන්නි චාමර චත්ත විභූසිත පාදෝ
Anyway, I stayed there for several more months. I already knew Buddhism fairly well, but learning how to behave as a monk and learning Pali in particular, that I spent most of my time doing. And eventually Venerable Sangharatana said to me what Venerable Panyarama had said to me in Buddha Gaya some time before. He said, look, it's not going to be easy for you to live as a monk or to learn how to be a monk here in India. You should actually go to Sri Lanka. So I decided to take that advice. And I'd started to think about going to Sri Lanka. And because I was young and perhaps naive and perhaps a little bit romantic, I decided I'm going to do it the way that the monks of old would have done it. I'm going to walk. So I decided I was going to walk from North India all the way to Sri Lanka. Now that's actually a long way. Anyway, so where we were in Sravasti, not very many pilgrims came, because it was rather remote. The road getting there was not a good road. But occasionally a Japanese bus, a big Japanese air-conditioned bus would come by and Japanese pilgrims would come out. And Venerable Sangharatana was gradually building the temple mainly from donations from them. And then very rarely a bus would come from Sri Lanka, a beaten up old Indian bus with Buddhist pilgrims on them. Anyway, so I decided, and I had informed Venerable Sangharatana of this, but I hadn't told him that I decided to walk. He'd have probably laughed and called me an idiot. But in the end I told him, and he tried to talk me out of it, but I said I'm going to try to do it at least. Anyway, on the morning that I had decided to set out, a busload of Sri Lankan pilgrims came. And Venerable Sangharatana talked me into at least going to Varanasi in the bus with these Sri Lankan pilgrims, which is in the end what happened. When I got to Varanasi, I went up to Rajghat, walked across the river, and I began my journey south towards Sri Lanka. And in the next month or two, I can't really remember how long it took, but I walked hundreds of miles, but occasionally somebody would take me in a cart. Once, I recall, a Muslim man took me about 30-40 kilometers on the back of his motorcycle. Once I was walking through a small town and a man came up to me and said, "Are you a Buddhist monk?" And I said, "Yes." And he said he was a Buddhist too. "I'd like to give you lunch." So we went into a scruffy, rather dirty restaurant and he gave me a very nice meal. And then when I told him I was walking to Sri Lanka, he was quite astonished. And he took me to the railway station and he bought me a railway ticket for some... So in the end, I didn't walk all the way, but I certainly walked great distances. But from time to time, I would end up, through the kindness of others, getting a train or a bus or the back of a motorcycle, sometimes a bullock cart. Once a a boat, and that's how I ended up getting to Sri Lanka. And during that time, I had no shoes. I didn't wear shoes, and I had virtually no money. And I basically went for Pindapata the whole way, and never once did I get nothing. Sometimes I would get just a few coins. Sometimes I would get quite unpalatable food, but almost in every case, people gave me what they could afford. And so it was a great lesson in humility for me. I, for the most part, ate what ordinary people ate themselves, which was very, very meagre food in very small amounts. Only once or twice did I ever have an unpleasant experience. One that comes to mind is that I was going through a town and I passed a school just as all the boys were coming out of the school. And when they saw me, they gave me a great deal of hassles. They pushed me and tried to knock the bowl out of my, laughing and mocking me and what have you. And it started to get rather potentially violent. And fortunately, in the distance, I could hear a whistle of some policemen coming, and indeed 2 policemen came on a rickshaw and saved me. I think that was virtually the only time I really had any difficulty, and particularly when I was in South India, in the Tamil country, almost always people understood what Pindapata was. That they assumed, I imagine, that I was a Swami and that I was begging for alms, and they always gave me a banana or idli or something. I always had something. It wasn't the best food, and the other remarkable thing was I never got sick. Eventually I went through Madurai, I went through Mahabalipuram, I went through all these wonderful places. I had the opportunity to see some of the great monuments of ancient India, mainly Hindu ones, but some others as well. And eventually I made my way to Rameshwaram. And I think in those days the bridge to Rameshwaram is a sort of a long finger-shaped island pointing towards Sri Lanka. And on the other side, on the Sri Lankan side, is a finger of land called Talimanna, pointing towards Rameshwaram. And of course this is where once, I suppose, there must have been a land bridge there. And this is where, according to Hindu tradition, Rama and Hanuman jumped across to, this is called Rama's Bridge. But right on the very edge, right on the very end of the island is the Rameshwaram temple, which is a huge ancient temple, a goal of pilgrims from all over India. And I arrived in the town, and I went to and at that time, I don't know what it's like now, but at that time, the town was made up entirely of single-story houses. There wasn't any multi-story buildings or anything. And they were all traditional South Indian houses with this huge temple towering above them. And the whole town smelled of dried fish, because other than the pilgrim business, most of the people lived on fishing, and there were fish drying all over the place, a very pungent smell. And I made my way to the ferry office, small building, and I said I wanted a ticket for the next ferry to Ceylon. Sri Lanka had just changed its name from Ceylon to Sri Lanka, and they said there'll be 25 rupees, something like that. And I said, I'm a Swami, I don't have any money. And the man said, well, no money, no ticket. And I'd never really thought of this before. Anyway, I thought, what am I going to do now? Because now I had only about 2 or 3 rupees, that's all I had. So I decided to go in and have a look at the temple. And the corridors in this temple are vast. I don't know how big they are. They might be half a kilometre long or something like that. So I walked down this vast, nearly empty corridor, and I turned around, and as I was walking down, the temple elephant came past me with a sort of painted tilak on his head and with a bell jingling on either side of him. And I continued, and then I came back up, and when I came back up, the mahout, the elephant driver, was just standing there with the elephant, and just nearby was an old tin, and people were walking under the elephant. Hindus believe that it is good luck to walk under an elephant, and of course, if the other elephant doesn't squash you, I suppose it is good luck. Anyway, and when they would walk under the elephant, they'd just put a few coins in this tin. And I don't know, but I imagine the mahout is on his coffee break or something, and he's just making a little bit of extra cash for himself by letting people walk under his elephant. So I watched this for a short time, and then the elephant, with his trunk, picked up the tin and thrust it at me, right into my chest. So I thought, you've looked long enough, you better give a donation too. But I didn't want to do that, so I pushed it away, and the elephant pushed it at me again. And I looked at the mahout, and the mahout sort of went as Indians do. He sort of went, meaning, you can have it if you want. So I asked him, and he clarified it. Yeah, you take it. So I thanked him, and I got my robe like this, and I tipped it into my robe and held it like that. A few notes and dozens of coins. And then I went outside the temple and I counted it up, and it was almost exactly the right amount for the ticket. Astonished and also delighted. And I went to the ticket office, and one by one I counted out the coins, put them in little pillars like this, while the same man who had talked to me yesterday watched, and it was the right amount, and he smiled and said to me, "Ganapati has been good to you." And consequently, the next day, I took the old ferry to Sri Lanka, and my new life as a Buddhist monk began in the home of Theravada Buddhism.
Yesterday, we had Prof. Bante Sevali to talk about the distractions in meditation. Here he continues to talk more about distractions and the benefit of the meditation in our day-to-day life.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening. We are going to discuss the eightfold of the Eightfold Path. And it has always been called right concentration. But now it is popularly known as harmonious collectedness. In the USA, in most meditation practices, the words concentration implies that your mind should stay on only one thing, to the exclusion of everything else. To exclusion of everything else, using one pointed concentration. Mind becomes absorbed. A mind that becomes absorbed narrows the observation view of what can internally be realized. Through insight, instead of opening up wider to allow a vast knowledge and wisdom to be realized. This is why we have very limited results in daily life while using this approach. The Buddha taught a meditation practice using a mind that was unified and collected, resulting in a more open mind without tension and tightness. And there was ample internal vision possible, including peripheral areas. The practice did not cause pain and used a very gentle type of collectedness of mind that brought about a very clear result. This does not cancel out concentration, but rather it refines it into a particular quality and degree of concentration. That is not too tight, not too loose. Concentration, yes, severe and tight. No, very gentle, clear, yes. No severe and tight concentration, but very gentle and clear. According to some research by Rice Davis, during the time of the Buddha, the Pali word for samadhi was made up by the Buddha. In the time of Buddha, there was a lot of words meaning one-pointed or absorption, concentration. But the Buddha chose not to use those words. He made up a word to describe how mind can achieve both tranquility and wisdom while remaining very calm and alert about whatever else was happening around it. In his opinion, the word the Buddha created was samadhi. Samadhi, tranquil, plus wisdom. Sama, tranquil. Dhi, wisdom. After trying many things, it has been found that this word summarizes what is working so well within this meditation. The Buddha talked about samatha and vipassana in the holy book of Majjhima Nikaya, being yoked together. Samatha and vipassana being yoked together. In other suttas, discourses, there are indications that a light approach is best used to see the real truth about the nature of all things. Now the question, how can this meditation help our life? How can this meditation help our life? The Buddha didn't hide the expected end result of his practice. In fact, he left us a description of a measurable outcome that we would expect to experience by practicing this way. We cannot, or we can still read a clear picture of this outcome in Majjhima Nikaya 21st Kakachupama Sutta, the simile of the soul. In that sutta discourse, we hear the Buddha explain to the monks how they should train, so that this particular good outcome arises. How should we train? Let me repeat by memory from Dr. Bhikkhu Bodhi's famous English translation of the holy book of Majjhima Nikaya. The middle length says, when others talk to us, their speech may be timely or untimely, true or false, gentle or harsh, connected with good or connected with harm, filled with loving kindness or inner hatred. We need to train kindness. We need to train ourselves this way. My mind will remain unaffected, and I will say no words that are evil or untrue. I shall be compassionate for others' welfare. I will say no words that are evil or untrue. I shall keep my mind filled with loving kindness, without ever entertaining thoughts of anger and hatred. I shall radiate and pervade all beings with a mind that is abundant, exalted, and immeasurable, without anger or hostility. That is what we need to practice. But do I really need to smile? Let me, do we really need to smile? While I began my practice of smile, my teachers have told me that in the beginning of our practice, don't struggle, just smile. Even if you don't feel like smiling, smile anyway. Even if it is just raising the corners of your mouth. Smiling sends a message to your brain. The brain knows what to do. Remember, it was said, what you do in this present moment dictates what happens in the future. That means that in your future, the smile will get easier as the meditation develops. Your smile will not only be on your lips, it will spread out into your mind. Show up in your eyes and identify definitely your true nature, and definitely grow in your heart. It will naturally begin to support the growth of outward compassion. It is splendid in this way. Gradually, we will discover that this was true. I found something amazing. It is actually possible to fulfill the entire Eightfold Path with one smile. The moment you smile with complete sincerity, you are practicing all eightfolds of the path, which, as you smile, mind contains a wholesome mind state as you are exercising a harmonious perspective. You are using harmonious imaging in your mind at that time. You are exercising harmonious communication properly through your body, speech, and mind. You are carefully observing the harmonious movement of mind's attention and realizing how it moves as you observe it. Your harmonious lifestyle is fully supporting you every time you sincerely smile. Probably you use the harmonious practice to bring up this smile intentionally or automatically, depending on the level of practice at this time. Harmonious observation is helping you to notice the impersonal nature of this entire process without personal attachment. Harmonious collectedness allows you to experience this state of smiling noticing how easy it is for a collected mind to smile. This is how we begin to come more alive again into life and see the real beauty of it. With smiles, start trying this. I bet you will take it and you will like it and definitely see what I mean. So, you might question, is this meditation worth it? Really, you have to determine this for yourself. After sharing all this with you, it is very important that you do not just blindly believe what I speak, what I tell you. The Buddha was clear about that, and this is one of the reasons why I respect the Buddha so very much. As a master teacher, the Buddha was a rebel of sorts. He made radical changes in how a teacher teaches and how the students should accept this. He challenged the traditional relationship between a teacher and a student by explaining that the student shouldn't accept things blindly that they hear from a teacher without personally investigating it for themselves first. This is quite a revolutionary initiation to the society. It's something really revolutionary. That means teacher not to accept without personally investigating what the teacher said. The Buddha told us that there is no other way to attain knowledge and vision except through knowing by seeing how things actually work for oneself. He advised us to check things out for ourselves by following his instructions closely. This is the way to liberating mind. There is a discourse called Kalama Sutta, also known as Kesamutti Sutta, in the holy book of Anguttara Nikaya, and at our center. Important parts of the sutta are given to the students early on. When they first begin their training, because of how important it is for them to recognize this way of learning during their training. The way of learning during their training. This is what the Kalama Sutta points out on this topic. It is unwise to simply believe what one hears because it has been said over and over again for a long time. It is unwise to follow tradition blindly just because it has been practiced in that way for a long time. It is unwise to listen to and spread rumors and gossip. It is unwise to take anything as being the absolute truth just because it agrees with one's scriptures without practicing to see through direct experience if they are true or not. It is unwise to foolishly make assumptions without honest investigation to see if they are correct or not. It is unwise to go by mere outward appearance or to hold too tightly onto any view or idea because one is comfortable with it. It is unwise to be convinced of anything out of respect and deference to one spiritual teacher without investigating and practicing what's being taught. It may be a good idea for all of us to go beyond our own opinions, beliefs, dogmatic thinking. In this way, we can rightly reject anything which, when accepted, practiced, and perfected, leads to more anger, criticism, conceit, frustration, pride, greed, or delusion. These unwholesome states of mind are universally condemned and are certainly not beneficial to ourselves or to others. These unskillful ways of acting and thinking are best to be avoided whenever possible. On the other hand, we can rightly accept anything which, when practiced and perfected, leads to unconditional love, commitment, and soft wisdom. These things allows us to develop a happy, tranquil, and peaceful mind. Thus, the wise praise all kinds of unconditional love, loving acceptance of the present moment, tranquility, contentment, and gentle wisdom. And they encourage everyone to practice these uplifting qualities as much as possible. Releasing attachment. Attachment gets in the way of our practice and causes problems in everyday life. Basically, attachment means taking thoughts and feelings personally, and then beginning to expand thinking about them by letting stories run in your mind. Let that go. If you will let go of that, then you will start experiencing more of what life is supposed to be like. If you will let go of that, then you will start experiencing more of what life is supposed to be like. What you will discover is the actual lightness of being and the ability to have more fun. If you have ever been around kids, when they are 2 or 3 years old, they have so much fun with their naturally sharp mindfulness and complete lightness. Their curiosity and energy is just great to watch. They want to discover everything. It's all new. The rate they are learning is so fast. They're having fun. The meditation practice develops more of this kind of mind for us. As we let go of the runaway mind, there becomes more room in our minds for this to come back. As you let go of attention and open up, this meditation will bring some of that same kind of wonderment back into our life. And you will be able to use more of your brain capacity with whatever you do. More interested you become in how mind's attention moves from one thing to another, the more you will see how you cause and your own pain, and you will stop doing this. Only then can you realize what becoming truly alive in the present moment is actually like. It's good to take the challenge. So now it's up to you. I'm going to offer you a challenge to try this practice in your daily life for the next week. There's only 7 days left. 1 week, you should practice it as much as possible. 1 week, you should practice it as much as you can remember to do, just as it is taught there. In addition to beginning your practice, I want you to smile. Maybe you are tired of listening to the word smile, smile. Keep your mind, make it a point. Smile is so important in everyone's life. It's something that we should never miss. I want you to smile. Make the commitment to smile into everything you do. Absolutely everything that is happening during your day. Don't skip anything. I don't care if you feel like smiling or not, but keep on smiling, and when you have the chance, give a smile away to someone who seems a little down. See what happens. Why? Sorry. Well, once there was a man who was coming quite often to our website. He was practicing a different kind of meditation, and he knew this wasn't improving much for him anywhere in life. He had been practicing for a number of years. He became very frustrated. He could see clearly that his mind was having difficulty, and he had a lot of tension and tightness in it. We gave him some simple advice to begin with, just like what I am asking you to do now. We told him to stop meditating altogether. We told him just smile. That's what we told him to do for 1 week. Smile into everything that you do. He took the advice seriously and he did it. His world was shifted. After that week, he wrote back and said, I want to give you some of the observations of what happened during the week. When I smiled, even if I didn't want to smile, it made my perspective different. It got easier for me to smile in the future. I used to walk around, going from one place to another in a mental haze, thinking about this or thinking about that. And when I started smiling, my posture changed. I started standing up straighter. When I began smiling, people suddenly were smiling back at me. That was amazing. They never did that before. They actually started to come closer to us and to talk with us. And they never did that before either. Smiling for 1 week changed my perspective, and it improved my mindfulness. My mindfulness they actually started to come too close to me and to talk with me, and they never did that before either. Smiling for 1 week changed my perspective. All to change your perspective, and it improved my mindfulness and my life. It made me most alert to what my mind was doing, and I let go of immeasurable amounts of suffering. To top everything else off, I'm having fun doing this now, and I physically and mentally feel a lot better. This is what someone told. This is the kind of thing that can happen. A partial or complete shift can happen. All we are asking is for you to try this practice for a week. See what happens. May you be well and happy.
Satya Kumar Varo Sukhumalo Lankana Vitita Punna Sariro Lokahitaya Gato Naraviro Esahi Tuiha Pita Narasiho.
Well, that's all for today. If you have any concerns or questions, please write to us at info as in INFO at Buddha Dhamma TV, one word. I shall spell it out. BUDDHA Dharma DHARMATV.com. So it's info at Buddha Dhamma TV. Buddha Dhamma TV is in one word. .com. Thank you for watching the program, and I am sure that many would benefit from Buddha Dhamma TV programs. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.